Well, g'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the Bouncer Counts. I'm Cuttsy.
I'm Vangeli.
So we're back here today, guys. Smaller, no panel, just an intimate affair of us two, Alice.
It is. It's good to get these videos back out.
Yeah,
I feel like we're right back into it now.
So guys, basically over the next couple of weeks, I'm looking into somehow getting this live streamed, probably on YouTube or on Twitch TV or something. So Wednesday nights, we will be doing that, get around it, and then the videos will be up the next day. We'll be moving actually to a Wednesday time slot in the next couple of weeks, just because it will be easier for everyone, and we can get more people on the show to get more opinions, so you don't have to listen to us two talk for 40 minutes. Basically, that's a good thing. So how we're going to go about today, guys, is start off with a little bit of AFL chat, because it is coming up to the finals, and it's probably the tightest final race in a long time, Alice.
It is. I mean, I think there's... Is it 4 teams?
I think it's 5 teams.
5 could make
on maths.
Including Collingwood.
Yeah, including... Yeah. Like, mathematically, there's 5 teams that can make 8th spot, and then there's still Port and Freo vying out for the second chance. Yeah,
which we all know is very, very critical.
Yes, very critical. Some Port fans have even said they'd rather come 5th, and I've said, jog on.
What would be the justification for that? Who do they play at 5th?
Is it Hawthorn or Sydney first? They don't want to play Sydney or something first round?
Yeah, but then they'll still end up playing an easier team. Or is it the whole argument about playing more games?
Yeah.
Or is there a bit walking wounded?
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting argument.
Yeah, we should have a chat about that.
Yeah, we will.
And then move on to a bit of EPL. So basically, as I've said the last couple of weeks, if you've been following the show, we're going to be moving into separate discussions of each show in the next couple of weeks. So the English Premier League will have TBTC FC. That will come out one day a week, and then when the cricket comes out, that will be a different show, and then the footy next season will be a different show. So it'll be 3 shows a week, else.
Yeah, I'll be taking a summer vacation.
Yeah.
When the cricket's on.
Yeah. We'll get someone else on here, and Risty will be back. That guy is... Where's he been? No,
I literally have not seen him since I got back from Europe.
Yeah, he is still on the website, and Risty is doing something at the moment.
Does he live in Adelaide?
I don't even know.
I actually genuinely
I did see him yesterday. Oh. Okay, we're going to start off, Vangeli, with... Can you talk us through the results from last weekend's footy?
Sure thing.
Quick sort of discussion. Big games.
Last Friday night was a big game, marred with some presser controversy.
Yes.
Involving a certain Mick Malthouse. But Port Adelaide did beat Carlton quite convincingly by over 100 points.
Yeah. I remember watching that one and just...
At Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, very good game for Port. Yeah. It was like a training run, most of my friends said.
Well, Carlton are obviously walking wounded.
One thing I say is, has the Mick Malthouse experiment worked? Obviously not, because they haven't made finals, really.
From what I've spoken to a few people, some Carlton fans, some non-Carlton fans, some just general footy people, and they've all seemed to agree that the blame has to be put on the list, and not the coach, because clearly Malthouse took Collingwood to 2 grand finals.
Well, he took them at the start in... Was it
also 3 grand finals, 1-1.
Well, in 2002 and 2003, and then back again 7-8 years later, when they won in... Was it 2009 when it was the replay?
No,
it was 2010.
But he didn't have that great a list of Collingwood, some people say. So clearly it can't be blamed all on the coach. I mean, but then again, I kind of go on results. Yeah. And he hasn't really got many good ones at all. So.
I think at the moment, with the way the league's going, obviously the chat that's going on with Melbourne about how appalling they are. And even though they've got the richest, as in the most paid coach in Paul Rose, and then they're asking for more priority picks, more assistants. The amount of picks in some article, I think it was on Fox Sports, showed the players they've picked in the last 5 years of drafts, and how many games those guys have got, and who they could have actually picked instead. And they would have a top 4 team with the players they could have picked. Well, and in the end, but then they keep losing games. It's not on the coach, it's on the list in the end. But I think my next point was going on that the league is so much stronger now. Yeah. To make, like, the Crows have been so on and off, and Port have been good, then they've been bad, and then good again. But then with GWS Gold Coast coming through now, it's nearly impossible for some of those teams down the bottom, like your St Kilda's Bulldogs, to actually get good now.
Totally. But sticking on to that game, is that the kind of confidence boosting win that the Power can really do with heading into what is a very tough game this week? Yeah, I think they need it. Could decide their season, really.
I think in the end, obviously, percentage boost too. Yeah. And then just kicking loads and loads of goals. Basically like a training run, but at home, last home game of the season, before obviously finals, at the Portress. I think it's important for them, a win before now, because they probably will lose to Freo on Sunday, just with the way it will work, that in the end it's at home at Subiaco or Patterson Stadium. Now, I don't think they'll get the win pulled over there, but I think they'll have still that game in the back of their minds for when they do versus the team, because Crows are 11th at the moment and can finish 8th, so it's so close around there, and most of those teams won't make a dent in finals, so Port will be thinking anyway they'll get the win there.
What we'll do is I'll run by what the results all were last weekend, and then we'll talk equations for this weekend. So North got a clutch win over Adelaide. Doesn't do anything for North, does it? But
Crows
hugely dented the Crows' aspirations.
I didn't watch the game, but apparently we were up in the fourth quarter. Well, from what I've read about it, and just collapsed again. So
importantly, the Crows can still make it. We'll come back to that. Essendon got a decent win over the Gold Coast. That pretty much ends Gold Coast's. Oh no, it doesn't. They're still in it as well.
That's
mathematically, but you wouldn't back them too high. Collingwood not that convincing over GWS.
No.
67-75 there in the end.
That was a really good game, and I think that showed Collingwood's depleted list. Obviously, the week before when Armstrong played 2 games in the one day. Again, Collingwood had more injuries, and I think this week they're going to have 12 first 22 guys out.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. That's definitely true. Hawthorn beat Geelong 94-71. Always big games, and usually always a win to Geelong.
Yeah.
Really.
But I think that's a big one, I think, for most of the league, and the fact that we know how good Hawthorn are, but Geelong still, for the last couple of years, have been sitting around the top. And everyone says their list isn't good enough at the moment. They know how to win. And I actually think that loss was better for Geelong, in the way that we all know Geelong, always in finals football, are a very good side. And I think now everyone will start not talking about them. Right? If they'd beaten Hawthorn, they mean, well, Geelong are probably premiership favourites again. They'd rather not. And I think Scott said they're very quietly confident in the group they have. And not that it's obviously tanking or anything, but they might be more happy that they actually lost that game.
How long had it been roughly that Hawthorn couldn't beat Geelong? And then this season they've beaten them twice.
I think it was 4, or the Kennett Curse was going for 4 or 5 years, I think it was.
So that's a good 12 or so games.
Yeah.
Gee.
Next one, Vangeli.
Moving down the list,
we're both very sick.
Yeah, we are. Well, we're seriously, I feel a bit like I'm a Collingwood player. My boys got the win.
The Eagles.
Not that they.
Somehow you guys are still. Are you guys still in the hunt for finals now?
You bet, buddy.
I still don't understand how.
We're actually in a better position than you are.
Yeah, I know. Like, don't even get me started. We'll talk about that in 1 second.
So, a much needed win for them, and I think you could say West Coast in the game leading up to the final round of the season.
You should be locked in by now. You should have beaten the Bombers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I mean, I could go on for about five could have, would have, should have, that the Crows should have had as well.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so going on, the Brizzy Lions were hammered at home by Freo. You'd think that would have Freo on their way now against Port next week. The Sydney Swans got an easy win, really, over the Bulldogs. That game was marred with a bit of racial controversy. Poor old Adam Goods.
Yeah,
when's it going to end?
I don't know, mate.
He can't have a flyer and not cop some kind of ridiculous, unwarranted abuse from sectors of the crowd. It's just so un-Australian. And then Richmond were rounded up around.
Richmond, where have they come from?
Where have they come from?
And the funny thing is, as we always say, they will still come 9th this year.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I mean, before I went over to Europe, they were absolutely down in the dumps.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
I think the same thing we can talk about nearly every team that's not in the top 4 this season, is that they've all had games that they should have won.
Yeah.
And obviously that's made the league so close in the middle that Richmond at the start, they had a couple of games they should have won. The Crows even themselves. I've looked at some of the Crows results and they realistically should have been 15 and 7.
Well, you lost at home to Melbourne.
I know, but the finals should be... I think because every team's been so inconsistent that they haven't been able to get 2-3 wins together on the trot.
Absolutely.
It just made it so hard. Because now, Vangeli coming up into the next round.
We'll talk equations.
I've got the ladder here. So basically, Swans...
It's all about the fixtures this round, though, Cutts.
Yeah, Swans are basically first. The Swans are first. They're first. Hawthorn and Geelong are fighting out to whoever will basically be the home team when they play. But the fact is, if Fremantle actually win and Geelong... Who did Geelong have this week, Vangeli?
Geelong
have Lions. So Geelong should win that. But if Geelong do somehow lose to Brisbane, Freo will then leapfrog them. Geelong if they end up losing their game. But so Fremantle versus Port are playing off for fourth. Port have a better percentage thanks to the last week's 100-point win. But I think in the end we'll go with Freo. We'll get the win up in that one, I think, mate.
It is Freo currently in fourth.
It is currently Freo in fourth. So then North and Essendon are basically are in 6th and 7th.
Oh, North hit it.
Yeah, North are in 6th.
Oh, I thought North were well out of it.
Nah, North are in 6th. They've locked 6th.
Okay, sorry.
But so they'll probably be playing Essendon. Who do Richmond have this week, mate? They've got the Swans, so we'll be thinking Sydney will win that one before finals. But you never know with the Richmond side that we've got at the moment. Collingwood and then the Eagles are 9th and 10th. But Collingwood luckily have another win up on the old Eagles. But Collingwood, I think, are going to lose this week.
Collingwood will lose.
Yeah.
I have no doubt about that.
With the team that they have, when they can only just beat GWS.
It'll all be about whether Richmond can do the unthinkable,
Yeah.
which I doubt they will against Sydney. And assuming that Sydney do win that, it's really going to come down to whether West Coast, who I think will beat Gold Coast, are going to be able to do it in a dominant enough way to register the better goal difference.
Than the Crows.
Better percentage, I should say, over the Crows, who you would think...
if we don't win against St Kilda, I think we shouldn't even make finals the year after.
You should win, but it'll be about whether you do it.
I think
whether you stumble over the line or whether you...
But Gold Coast, no, especially because it's the Sunday game. Luckily for the Crows, they're playing after, so they'll know what's happened. What sometimes is better or worse, because the fact is if they know they can't make finals,
then they won't show up.
They won't show up, so we could actually get the loss then. But I think Gold Coast will know that there's still actually a chance to play finals if the results go their way. If they do get...
Which they also need to
win by a freak load. But in the end, they know they can shape the finals, and I think a young team like that will go out and have a good chance.
Is Gary Ablett out?
Gary Ablett's still out. He still probably win the Brownlow though. St Kilda though finishing last, but we'll talk quickly about Melbourne, mate. They're still looking to get a priority pick, and the chances of Frawley leaving most likely to Gold Coast now because Carmichael Hunt's salary's out of $1 million a year, so they can probably pick up 2 more players.
Actually, I did read that he's not going to be playing on with them.
Yeah, that's when his salary's out.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So in the end,
I just heard on the radio before.
Gold Coast now have a chance. Well, I think Frawley's looking for 600,000. They can probably pick up another solid player or add more contract onto some of the other guys. But do you think in the end that would mean Melbourne would have picks 2, 3 and 4 because the compensation they'd get from Frawley? Would you think it's best for Melbourne is to probably trade those picks for established players? Not get another...
I would say so because it's just not...
Another 3 young players
the whole
nothing.
way they're going at the moment. I just get some good players in that team.
Well,
good players, good coach.
Off the top of your head quick, because we don't want to talk about this for too long. They have picks 2, 3 and 4. You'd probably keep one of those picks.
Yeah.
You'd probably keep the third one.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah.
You'd keep the third one. You'd trade 2 and 4.
Yeah.
You'd package them together to obviously get a better player because you need to win now. And the hardest thing is, unlike American sports where the player has no say in which team they go to, realistically, obviously now in the NBA, a lot of players are pushing, I want to go to that destination. The problem is, who would realistically now want to play for Melbourne? And say, I don't know, it'd be like the Crows receiving picks 2 and 4 for Rory Sloane. Yeah. Realistically, Rory would probably re-sign with the Crows because there's no point going to Melbourne at the moment. But in the end, they have to go out and get someone of that calibre, I think. Because even though obviously it's unlucky.
So you're saying who would want to go?
Yeah. Who would want? And in the comments below, obviously don't say who you think would want to go, but what's a player that Melbourne would realistically be trying to get with picks 2 and 4 in a draft, most likely, if they got the compensation pick from the AFL? What I think then is unfair to most of the other clubs who should have picks 3 and 4.
What about a player that's not really a star, but just someone that's actually going to, like a Pritis maybe?
Yeah, well, maybe. But would he be worth picks 2 and 4 in a draft?
Well,
he could be worth pick probably 2, and I think probably a West Coast. Obviously, you're losing one of the best ball winners in the league.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Obviously, if it was American sport, you'd go out and go picks 2 and 4. We'll take Russell Westbrook or something, and they'd probably make the trade for that. And your team would have a star forward or whatever. But I just think at the moment, with the way the AFL works, and I know a lot of my friends would say that's never going to work in Australian sport. Who can they realistically get, and where to go for Melbourne now? Because in the end, if they get another 3 18-year-olds, they're going to lose again.
It's going to take too long.
It's,
the whole rebuilding
like,
will just last forever.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're gonna. That's basically AFL talk done, mate.
Well, not yet, because I wanted to ask you what's going to happen this weekend.
Oh, what's going to happen?
Starting from Friday night.
Friday night, obviously. Hawks will get the win there against Collingwood. Just sorry for looking at the phone, but I've got to. I think
which would then pretty much mean that Collingwood miss out.
Collingwood miss out then.
And I've got a question about that.
Yeah, go right now.
Collingwood don't make finals. Does Buckley stay next season?
Well, I think it goes down to the fact is what we'll come and talk about actually in EPL talk at the moment. After this is there a good coach waiting in the wings? I think the problem some clubs are too eager to sack the coach they have. When, especially in AFL, like to be an AFL coach, you have to be so good and go through such a strict process. But again, getting a guy who's, I can't think of many older guys. Probably Paul Roos last year was the only one who would want to come back into coaching.
Do you know what I'd do?
Yeah,
I would. I'd go all out for Bomber.
Bomber, yeah. I think in the end, depends what happens with Hurdy. Obviously, if Bomber's free,
he should be.
Yeah, or if he's free,
yeah,
I would then look into sacking Buckley after he's free. Don't sack Buckley and then be like, oh, who do we get? I think a lot of clubs, even Premier League teams, do it. They sack their manager without thinking. Obviously, it's not good to already be making calls and going, Bomber, we're thinking of sacking Bucks. Are you interested? Yeah, I'm interested. Okay, Bucks, you're sacked. Like, in the end, you just want to have a feeler out there who's available. But don't just make a rash decision and sack him if he comes 10th. Because this league's been so ridiculous this year.
They've got some pretty big name assistants though, don't they?
Yeah, I think they do. But I think, guys like Robert Harvey and stuff, I don't think are ready yet to coach AFL level. So, and we've looked at other times with guys who have come in and have not been ready and it lasted 2 years and then gone out. And some guys are good assistants. They're not a full coach. And the amount of money they're getting paid as assistants now, guys are happy to stay as assistants for a couple of years.
Mark Thompson's getting $800,000.
Yeah.
On an assistant's wage, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll both say what we think. I think Essendon will get up over Carlton.
Yeah, probably.
But that's another derby game that anyone can. Freo will get up over Port, correct?
I don't really know. I'm going to say yes because they're the home team, but it could go either way.
They'll flip a coin. But it is 2:40 at Patterson, so it's a weird time. Then Swans Richmond, I think we'll say Swans will get up there. They'll want to keep the top spot. Geelong will beat Brisbane. It's at Simmons Stadium, so I think you can bet your house on that one. Don't quote me on that though. North Melbourne will get over Melbourne. North need a win running into finals. If they lost to Melbourne before finals,
it won't happen.
The morale would be low. Gold Coast Weagles, you're obviously going to say Weagles, but it is at Metricon, so...
It's at Metricon, but the one thing about the Weagles is that they win the games that people don't expect them to win. And they always screw it up when they're, a home game against, Saints or something. They'll lose that. But it's a clutch game. I think West Coast will win, but I think it'll be a matter of how much they win by. Yeah,
I think in the end, my head says West Coast, obviously my heart says Gold Coast to get the Crows in, but I think West Coast will get up by a very close margin though. I think, and then Crows versus Saints, obviously it's hard because the Crows will know the result, but I think, pardon me, the Crows will obviously get up on that. If they lose to Saints, we'll have lost to Saints and Melbourne in one season, and that's basically...
This is for a whole other debate.
Yeah.
But I know there's the issue of venues, TV listings, blah, blah, blah. But seriously, Australia, can we just become the English Premier League on
and
final
play
rounds? Because it would be so much more exciting. Like, let's face it.
Well, I think the problem though is when it's... I know you could have... Obviously they leave around 23 without the listings until about 2-3 weeks ago. But you could put all the good games that matter for what it's looking like in 3 weeks ago on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Saturday night, maybe one game at 4, then 3 on Saturday night. You've got Fox Sports. You've got Fox Footy. You can put 3 games on, I think. I know, I agree with you.
It's for a whole new debate, but I think we're just... we're not... we haven't progressed enough as a sporting nation to
do that. Yeah,
really delve
if we
into that.
Pardon me, it's ridiculous how cold. If we can't do it in the A League, the AFL won't do it. I mean, we don't get a night grand final. What I still don't agree with, but yeah.
Anyway, it'll be a really enjoying final round. So all the best to all teams.
Yes, it will be, and all the best to the Eagles and obviously the Crows.
May the best team win.
Yeah, well, I just think in the end, whoever comes 8th probably won't do much in finals anyway. So
no, and doesn't deserve it really.
Yeah,
based on the season that all those teams have had.
Okay, now we're going to move on. We'll just take not really a little break, but if you want to stop listening now, if you don't care about the EPL, stop now. But we're going to move into EPL right now, Alice. So another big week. Obviously, we're Liverpool fans, but we're going to start with the biggest game of the weekend: Liverpool versus Manchester City, Tuesday morning, Adelaide time. I watched it. Obviously, disappointing result for Liverpool in the end, but I think there's positives to take out of it. Alice,
I don't personally.
You don't?
The only positive for me is the fact that Mario Balotelli was confirmed as a Liverpool player.
That's the debate after this. I think in the end, the first 30 minutes was very good. We lacked a bit of cohesion, and obviously, with the way the season works, we've got Tottenham next weekend too, and we've had two very tough games early on in the year, whereas Chelsea luckily have had 2 walks in the park to start the season off. Yeah. Very unlucky to get City that early. The cohesion wasn't really there. Surprisingly, with a team that had basically played with each other all of last season anyway, there was no new signings. I don't think really started in the attacking half. Defensively there was a lack of cohesion there too. But Sterling played really well again. Sturridge for me looked lost up front a little bit because I think with him and Suarez last year there was so much interchanging. They didn't really have a position that he just sort of ran around and did. But when he was playing up front by himself, I think this is where Balotelli will come in and do better for Sturridge, because Sturridge will be able to not take. I guess it's the same as when you've got 2 really good, a good full forward, a good centre half forward in the AFL, where, or maybe and then you're the third tall. You don't have a good as defender. Whereas when he's the main guy, I don't know how well he'll do, but Balotelli coming in will help him. Markovic looked really good when he came on. Defensively were errors. Moreno played really well the left back in the attacking half.
Despite the first goal.
He played really well attacking half. Defensively, I think, because it's such a new side. And then Lovren still looked very strong coming out again, but defensively he looked a bit off. In the end, there was positives to take 3-0. Mignolet still scares me.
3-1.
Mignolet. No, I went up to 3-0. Sorry.
Right.
When they scored and Aguero comes on, it's such a good pass by Navas. You can't take away from the good ball, but he should be not. As Bozza, the great man Mark Bozic would say, as a goalkeeper, you should be angry if the ball gets let in your near post.
And it happens to him so often.
It never let, as a goalkeeper, even playing futsal and even if you have to, just playing goals because you get put in goals, you never let the goal go in your near post.
Actually, it happened to him last time we played City.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it was the same situation where he's just been beaten at his near post.
And especially the movement there, it was like in a Sunday league keeper that couldn't get across his goal quick enough. Because Aguero, I don't understand. Obviously, it happens in a split second, and to move across your goal because 1 or 2 seconds. But you'd think he'd be able to move across and make then Aguero. Aguero's literally seen the front post and he's passed it in. And I don't know if that's his movement, not watching the game, still reacting from conceding a second.
You have to admit that Aguero's probably one of the best finishers going around right now.
If I'm a keeper, though, I want Aguero to hit that across me.
Yeah.
And if he finishes that across me, I go, you're not going to stand and go, congratulations on the finish. But you should be going, well, that's a good finish, and you should be saving it in your post. He sort of dived over the top of it, but it wasn't like it's such a quick break. That I think in the end, though, Mignolet, we're still looking, I think, for replacements from reports I've been looking at.
What, for Mignolet?
To battle him for as a second position. Yeah. Not a replacement, but I think there's still room.
There needs to be competition.
There needs to be competition, because Brad Jones isn't going to beat him to a...
No way.
I think it's the same as City last year.
Yeah.
And I read a really quite interesting article on our Football 365 saying, is the day of the number... Football 365 is a great website.
Okay.
It's better than Dino's footballrumours.co.uk.
Yeah.
What it said is the day of a number one.
I was just waiting for the World Game or Fox Sports or PremierLeague.com, but
they're not going to say it's an opinion piece.
Yeah, okay.
They're not going to put that on EPL website.
Well, the A-League have opinion pieces.
Yeah, but so they said is the day of the number one keeper gone, because teams need competition for the from the second keeper to come through, because it used to always be you'd have your number one, you'd have your guy who sits on the bench all year, never really. If it's a League Cup game or there's an injury, you can bring him on, but he never really play. But now with City having Willie and then Joe Hart having 2 number one keepers, same with Chelsea, I think Liverpool are then looking in to sign. Well, that's what I'd probably like to see Reina probably stay.
Yeah.
But he obviously was too expensive to stay because he's still on $120,000 a week.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
That was never going to happen. So in the end, Kudos to City though. They were battered for the first 30 minutes, I think, by Liverpool, and then they just stuck around. Jovetic looks like a new player this season. What's going to be scary for City, because I still think now over these first 2 games, I don't know who's going to stop that front 4 if all of them are fit. Like, because the fact is, Negredo played most games last year, or a lot of games last year, because Aguero was out.
But I think we'll see Negredo exit late before the transfer window closes.
Well, still to have 3 world-class strikers is ridiculous. So moving on now, talking Vangeli.
I did watch this game from start to end.
I don't know where, obviously this you can take more of a comment on this, because I didn't watch the game, I watched the extended highlights, but for me, United just look lost at the moment. I give him actually credit for giving these young guys a go, because the squad is so thin, and I just want to ask you, what is Woodward trying to do by just going out and buying big players? For me, United's always been a team that, I think we talked about this on last week's show, that United have never really bought world class, spent 50, 60 million, 30 million. They bought Rooney and Ferdinand for those big prices, but they've always been like getting the Ashley Youngs, getting the Valencias, and making them world class players. Obviously, world class like that. For a while, Young was a world beater. But going to like your Wiggins, so that was Watford, going to West Ham and getting their best players and bringing them up into a United sort of thing. Now they're just trying to sign Vidal for 60 million, thinking he's the answer.
Yeah, but they've also not gone without Champions League football since 1995, and so
they want to buy.
It's absolute panic mode. Cuts. It's panic mode, and the difference between United and Liverpool is that when we went through this, which we did, not to the same extent. I still don't think we were in absolute tatters, and we didn't go from winning a Premier League. So, it wasn't to as big of an extent as what United's going through, but with us, we also went through the whole panic. We signed Carroll for 35 million, which was just atrocious. Downing for 19 million, whatever it was. All these ridiculous signings. It didn't work. No. And so we just thought of that
because
point.
We didn't have we couldn't draw the big name player anyway. We had to go to a good Premier League team. I see
what I'm actually what I'm trying to say is we just sat down and realised that it wasn't going to work. It wasn't happening. So go with this new system of trying to find the bargain buys that will eventually bring us up. And we did that. It took time, it took patience, but it worked. We're now back up there. United are still, for some reason, able to make these big name signings. Like, Di Maria would not have come to Liverpool.
No, and I think the thing is that we've seen comments by United Chiefs and other people saying that United have the money to make these big name signings because they need to make them. Liverpool would have never gone into a panic buy. I think a lot of people are saying 60 million for Di Maria is a panic buy at the moment.
I still think he's an exceptional
player. I think he's an exceptional player. I rate him very highly.
Andy Carroll for 35 million is a panic buy.
I think
he was signed on 6 months of form. Di Maria's world class.
Di Maria is world class, don't get me wrong. I just think when you look at the United side, and people were talking about this, obviously it looks like they're trying to play the 3-5-2, and we've talked about this a lot. Where does he fit? And obviously changing his system, but they already have so many number 10s and number 9s. Where's that central midfielder by? Obviously I think they're still looking at Vidal, but why aren't they trying to expand their search a bit wider and try and sign these other players instead of going out? Obviously if they get Vidal, they've spent over nearly 200 million this window, what is a ridiculous amount of money. Who are they looking to get in? Like, who would you get in if you were Manchester United? Put your Manchester United hat on, Alice. And there's a week left in the window. Not even that. And not Vidal.
Not Vidal. I would basically look at maybe signing.
That's the thing.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe a Mikel Arteta or.
So I'm looking. I know Schneiderlin was at 20 million from Sunderland, and they still haven't sold him yet. But I'm just trying to think for United at the moment, who can they go and get to make their squad better? Because the fact is, Fletcher.
Joe Allen.
That's the biggest. Fletcher's basically gone. His career's on a decline now. Then they look. Cleverly has never been good enough. And I can't think of many other players. Carrick's still injured, but in that formation they're trying to play, and still. And the same with centre backs. I don't know why. Obviously, it's like in Football Manager and FIFA when you've got so much money left with the week to go in your transfer window. And you feel like, I need another attacker. I do. I need to spend 60 million on Di Maria. When you've got holes at the back and you think we'll score more than everyone else. But the fact is, when you've got these young kids who are reserve centre backs playing and guys out of position and you're left wing backs is such a specialist position that he's trying to play.
And they're playing young there.
Yeah. It's a special, even like getting, signing the guy from the Rogers or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Roger. He's a centre back. Rojo. He's a centre back or a left back, not a left wing back.
Yeah.
So he's going to be playing left centre back. And you've got Luke Shaw, who you spent 30 million on, who's never played wing back in his life.
And you can't rely on Johnny Evans?
No. Okay, too much talk for United, but they also did get knocked out by MK Dons when I woke up yesterday. I thought that was the funniest thing I've nearly ever seen.
And lost 4-0.
Yeah. Seriously, the defending... So at football training last night, obviously having a bit of banter and a bit of a laugh at United's expense, what's been the last basically year, after copying it for so long. And every United fan I talked to said, oh, but it's our reserves team. You're Manchester United.
Yeah,
You're Manchester freaking United.
But it wasn't even their reserves team.
No,
really.
You started with freaking Hernandez, Welbeck, and Kagawa, who are international players who start for their nations up front, yet you didn't create a single chance. Don't say who's behind you and who's defending. It's Manchester United. If that's Liverpool, I'm going to go, well, it's great we gave the young kids a go, but you shouldn't be losing 4-0 to a third-tier mid-table side.
Doesn't happen.
In MK Dons, whose whole squad is worth less than one week
salary
of Rooney. So, yeah, United, we'll have a bit of a laugh at them. But I think, obviously, at the moment, they're not going to turn into a Leeds yet. But if things don't change, and obviously fans are so edgy at the moment, Van Gaal has basically said it's going to take 4 months. If we're
to start playing the way he wants.
If we're in relegation at 4 months, I'll get him out of it. But we might finish 12th this season.
Surely not.
But you never know with the way they're playing, mate. Their team was driven by Sir Alex on a fear factor to get the best out of his players. And these guys have now gone through, and Moyes is probably a bit more lighthearted. But I still don't know how you can lose that talent overnight. So now moving on to the next games, Arsenal 2-2 draw with Everton. Everton looked good.
Disappointing, to be honest with me, was the fact that it was very un-Martinez of them to sit back for as long as they did. They went 2-0 up, and the difference between that game and Everton last season was that they went on and won that game 3-0.
They went out and killed the end because they scored 2 before half-time, and you would have thought, again, it's probably the worst time for them to have half-time. It's the classic cliche, pardon me, that they would have gone on, and I'm surprised that they sat back, but in the end, once Arsenal get that one goal with Ramsey, who is a completely different player than 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
He's a world-class footballer, and I have to give whoever's been training him, because obviously he was always a talent, but he has surpassed Wilshere leaps and bounds.
Oh, yeah.
But Giroud's now injured, but a good finish in the end, but I'm quite surprised too. I would have thought Martinez's side, he would have gone out and gone, if we're going to draw 2-2, let's go out and attack and draw instead of sitting back, because I hate it when teams sit back. There's no point, because once it's 2-0, the worst scoreline in football.
Yeah, but I mean, it was 2-0 to the 85th minute.
Yeah, 85th minute. But once they concede with 10 minutes to go, or with added time, then they all go into their shell. So then moving through the other results, Swansea get the win over Burnley. Big 3 points for them.
Yeah.
What you need to do at home, you need to win those games. That's important. Southampton and West Brom play out a very boring 0-0 draw, why people say you don't watch football. But in the end, both sides probably take a draw in that. I think especially West Brom will take the draw.
Probably disappointing for Southampton though, given the way they played at Liverpool the week before.
You would have hoped to get a result.
To get a win there.
Then Palace lost 3-1 to West Ham. Finally appointed Neil Warnock. Opinions on the appointment?
Look, I read an article, and I'm not sure if it was an opinion piece, but it was, or a statistic, satire, but it was on 442.
Yeah.
And there were some quotes in there which didn't seem very believable.
Yeah.
Coming from the Palace president, which basically referenced to the fact that they had looked leaps and bounds for any kind of talented, fancy, classy kind of manager. And they didn't find anything.
And so they just got Neil Warnock.
And got Neil Warnock, who actually applied for the job. So, along with Jay from the In-Betweeners.
Yeah.
So
that's got to be one of the most brilliant letters I've ever seen. But no, in the end, I think we left Leeds last year, and now he's a Premier League manager, and he says unfinished business. Obviously, he got QPR up 2 seasons ago, I think.
It's disappointing though, isn't it? I mean,
it's a disappointing. So obviously, they wanted Mackay, didn't get him.
Yeah. So
I think it's just interesting in the end why they've gone that way with him, when there is talented managers out there that they could have signed. Shamak, Zarate, Downing, and when you've got Downing Cole and Shamek scoring in one game. Very interesting game of football. Vangeli. Though Chelsea got the easy win over Leicester. Costa keeps scoring, but there is rumours though he's out for another 2.5 months. Unlucky for them. And Hazard continues his scoring. But Newcastle, Aston Villa rounded out another boring 0-0 draw. Obviously already talked about Sunderland and United. Mata scoring there. A nice little finish, but Rodwell looks sort of a rejuvenised player now.
He does, and it's good for him because he was rotting at City. So.
Well, it's good for English football, and I think apparently Roy Hodgson's naming his squad tomorrow for the friendlies that I think, obviously not this weekend, the weekend after. We talk about the Aussie squad also, Ellis. But it's good that these players, Rodwell and stuff, who were he played it for England before, we were sort of injured, but he's starting to play. We need more, England need more centre midfielders to come through. Hopefully he has a good season, and then he might get a call up again. I'm about to sneeze. Bless you. Thank you everyone out there for blessing me. Tottenham though looked dangerous and outstanding with a 4-0 win over QPR.
Eric Lamela, 2 words.
Don't want to say I've always rated him because he wasn't.
But you have.
But it was always a classic football manager, FIFA, who then I watched when he was playing at Roma. But the kid obviously last year got a lot of stick. He was still only 19, 20. A $30 million price tag. Obviously overpaid.
He didn't live up to it last year.
No, but obviously you're not overpaying for him because that's his value. But when a kid that young gets that much of a price tag on, and basically they've said you have to go be Gareth Bale now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stick. He obviously needed a year to settle into England, and now he's looking like a player that he's really destined to be. Because I think he's a world-class footballer. Those runs he was making, that cross was just...
Yeah.
Then Hull and Stoke played out a 1-1 draw, and we've already talked about Liverpool else.
Going to Hull and Stoke though, one of the most controversial goals I've ever seen.
Oh yes.
Did you know about this?
Yeah, I've heard about it. I've seen it, but Fox Sports quickly ran off it.
The clearest throw into Hull imaginable in Stoke's attacking half. It was awarded to Stoke basically straight away from the throw. The ball went into the box and Stoke scored.
Yeah.
Hull lose a point after hanging on with 10 men.
Yep.
It's so hard on them. I don't know how you can get something like that wrong when you've got a referee and a linesman.
Obviously,
it's clear,
you can't get...
you visibly see whoever the Stoke winger was become frustrated at
just
getting in the way of the ball and walking away from the ball, running back onto the pitch.
Yeah.
And yet, you still have the referee award Stoke the throw. It was really, really controversial.
Okay guys, now we're going to move into the buy and sell segment of our EPL section. So I'm just going to say some rumours that I've seen from over the different newspapers that I've collected here, and we're going to say whether we buy or sell it. So we're going to start with probably the most ridiculous rumour I've heard all transfer window though. Ellis, United eyed Joe Allen for 20 million. Buy or sell it?
Sell that right away.
There's no way Liverpool will be selling him to a rival, and especially for 20 million. When I still think Joe Allen was very harshly criticised for his performance against City.
Look, I still wouldn't really care. Like if we sold him, I'd be like, alright.
But probably just not to United.
Yeah.
Because you'd probably end up finding that he'll end up turning into like a world beater if he goes out and plays there and then win. Yeah. Arsenal in for Cavani for around 50 million.
Probably buy it because there's a lot of pressure on Wenger.
He needs to sign another striker now.
They only just limped over the line against Besiktas this morning in the Champions League qualifier. And Alexis Sanchez goal there. The $32 million man getting the goal, which in turn gets Arsenal $32 million in revenue for playing Champions League football.
Goodbye.
Monsieur Wenger.
Okay, AC Milan are in for the Chelsea pair of Fernando Torres and where was the other one? They're after Torres, and it's also Marco Van Ginkel, who Chelsea still have but loan out every year. Another classic Chelsea.
Lukaku. I'd probably sell the Torres one because Mourinho has come out and said that he wants him to stay
because he needs 3 strikers.
But probably buy the other one.
He needs to go. So obviously we've talked about Fabio Borini a lot on the show before. AC Milan are now in for him also if they can't get Torres. For him,
they're stooping down low, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I think the problem with Borini is, and as a lot of fans have said to myself, is I love Borini. I love his work rate, he tries hard, he really wants to be a very good footballer. And he obviously is a very good footballer. But the fact is for him right now, that he's not going to play in the Liverpool team.
No.
He's not going to play for Liverpool, mate.
And he's an idiot for not realising.
You're going to sit on the bench when you've got Sturridge, Balotelli, you've got Lambert, who is the third choice striker.
Well, is Lambert better than Barini? I mean, Barini had a good season.
Barini is better than Lambert, but I think in the end, Lambert will be more than happy to sit for 38 games on the bench.
Yeah.
And when needed for 10 minutes to come on and try and get a goal. Barini's development needs him to be playing. So at the moment, Barini needs to go out. And Sunderland have Liverpool accepted 14 million.
Yeah.
We've done stoked. We've made a profit of a couple of million for 2 years of his development. Gone out, he would have been their number one striker. And I would have thought he had a good season. He still wants to play for Liverpool. And now AC Milan want a freaking loan deal. Buy him. Mate,
I wouldn't go the loan deal.
No, if it's Liverpool, I'd keep him.
I'd say you've screwed us around.
Yeah.
You're staying now. You know,
Sit
when it
on the
comes to
bench,
those annoying League One
We've got Middlesbrough
cup games and whatnot, you know, that's when you'll be called upon. You're not going to cost us 14 million this season and then not be here anyway. Yeah. I wouldn't let him go. That's crap.
QPR are ready to snap up midfielder from West Ham, Mo Diame. Do you think that's a good move for him? He looks like he sort of moved out of place there at West Ham at the moment.
He's actually not a bad footballer, but I mean...
12 months ago he was linked to Arsenal and Liverpool and he just had sort of a poor season, so...
maybe it is a changing up that he needs. I wouldn't really know. I don't watch much of West Ham. I don't know if you do. But
he scored some good goals. I don't know whether he's another like sort of Seb Larson sort of highlights player.
Scored a crack against Chelsea maybe a season or two ago.
Yeah, I think he's one of those sort of highlights players. But I think for QPR they need that squad depth of players to come through. And signing from a rival, if they can get him sort of rejuvenated, is probably a good move. 2 Liverpool loans here because the squad is so big. Looks like Jordan Ibe is discussing a loan deal to Derby County. Do you think that's a good one?
That's a great deal.
Good one for him. Good team. Derby or Derby are looking to actually... I think they're looking for top 6 finish after they just lost in the playoffs final last year.
It's a good move.
Good move for him. I think it'd be too early for him to be playing Premier League on loan summer. He wouldn't get enough game time. But if he can... I think he played 12 games for Birmingham at the end of last season. So I think for him, getting some loan deals in with him, a good season in the Championship will be good.
Sure.
And also Sebastian Coates, looks like Sunderland are in for him.
On a loan.
What?
Well, we've got to sell it.
I don't know, but I think in the end with the centre-backs we've got and with Agra and stuff, I don't think there's any harm in... His value's not there anymore at the 7 million we paid for him, or reported 7 million. It looks though like if he can get a good season under his belt, we can see if he's good enough for Premier League football.
Yeah.
And if he plays freaking 30 games to Sunderland and does well, we might go, well, he's good enough to be our 3rd or 4th centre-back. If he doesn't do well, then you sell him off to someone else and you just take a hit. But there's no... You don't want to die wondering there if he goes off to some other team. I think that's why Laurie keeps getting loaned out. And then finally, guys, it looks like Hamburg have made an approach for Lewis Holtby. I think that's a good move for him because his career sort of started since he's been at Tottenham.
I don't know, really. I mean, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Going back to Germany is probably a good thing for him. Yeah.
For him. I'm just trying to find where I put the fixtures for this week.
Well, I've got them.
Oh, you got them there?
Actually, I'm not sure if I've got them.
I can't find them.
Hold on.
So guys, we'll basically just ask you, who do you think has been the best signing this transfer window, and who do you think has been the worst signing? Obviously we talked through them also on our EPL preview, but that's now about 2 weeks old now, obviously with how the EPL season works and the transfer window. And I also want to ask you, do you think the transfer window should end when the season starts? I think that's also a good thing that everyone always talks about, that why do you get 3 weeks into the season to make more deals and the squad sort of changes, etc., etc.? Do you have the fixtures mentioned?
I do indeed.
Okay, let's go
kick us off. Burnley at home to United.
What a place for Di Maria to make his debut at Turf Moor. What a place to go and make your Premier League debut. It looks like. I'm probably going to go draw.
Draw. Okay. City Stoke.
City will get the win there.
QPR Sunderland.
That's going to be a very tough one. I think it's a flip of a coin. And they're the results, obviously, so early in a season that can define a team's season. I'm probably going to go QPR there with the 3 points.
QPR. Newcastle Crystal Palace in Warnock's debut.
I think Newcastle will get the win there because it's at Newcastle.
And they played well against City. I'm not sure how they did last week.
Yeah. It was a draw, 0-0.
0-0, okay. Swansea West Brom.
A draw.
West Ham Southampton.
That's a very tough one. I think it could be another draw, but I think Southampton really need to start racking up some points.
I'm going to go Southampton 2-1. That rounds out Saturday, then the Sunday's Everton-Chelsea.
That is a ripper, and obviously that's at Goodison, correct?
Yeah, it is indeed. Tough little run for the Toffees.
I know, and some people say it's better to get it out of the way. I don't know. I'm not a fan of those comments, but I know this is a big game for Lukaku, going up against Mourinho, showing that he is. So I
would love a brace or something. For Lukaku.
I think Everton might actually get a result here. Yeah. They'll be very angry with the Arsenal draw, so I think they'll go out and get a result.
What's with the Merseyside clubs getting the ridiculous draws? Oh yeah. Anyway, Aston Villa Hull.
I'm going to go Hull with that one. Aston Villa just look like a horrible team this year.
They are a horrible team, but they're at home, so I'm going to go Aston Villa. And Hull were absolutely dreadful last week. Tottenham Liverpool at White Hart Lane.
Liverpool has very tough games. I think they'll have to come out, and last year obviously we destroyed Tottenham at home. That shouldn't happen again. I think this is going to be very close. Head says draw, heart says Liverpool win obviously, but it's going to be high scoring. I reckon 3-2 to Liverpool.
Head says a Tottenham 2-0 win, unfortunately, for me. Leicester Arsenal on Monday to round it out.
Arsenal have to get a win there.
Yep, definitely Arsenal for me as well.
Okay guys, that's going to round out the end of the show. We're trying to keep it dot on 40 minutes now. Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of The Bounce Accounts. Hopefully you enjoyed our little bit of AFL chat at the start and our EPL chat at the end. So we'll be moving into TBGC FC in the next couple of weeks on a Wednesday afternoon, and then Footy Talk will also be at the start of those, but we'll make separate videos for that also if you want to look into that. So cheers for joining us guys. Get in contact with us on the Facebook page, posting photos every day. Get some discussion going on there. Sort of a forum for you guys to express your feelings on anything happening.
It is a really good forum.
Yeah, happening in any AFL cricket's happening now over in South Africa. We just lost again after
the Phillies
getting a great total of 330, and then they chased it down. Freaking bowlers. But there's a lot of good things in sport happening at the moment. Danny Ricciardo could be a chance to win the GP. Yeah, I don't care about racing, but get around any Aussie is doing well. So check that out, guys. Keep in touch with us. Message us anything we should cover in a separate show. We'll definitely look into that for you guys. We're trying to expand this for you all. So cheers for listening, guys, and we will catch you next week. Ta-da.